Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com MLB live before lock. 7-game main slate on Thursday. And guess who the cat dragged in? Getting the band back together for baseball this year. I figure I said this too. I hit up Greg. I was like, yo, we need a 2-man live before lock for a 7-game main slate today. I don't mind doing strategy shows solo early in the morning. You get live before lock late at night. But who better to join us than our friend Matt Bellman? Also, Matt, having a pretty ridiculous season so far in the MLB streets.
Yeah, it's been a good ride so far. Hoping to keep that up. And yeah, man, I was hyped to get on this show with you. Had some internet problems this morning, but we powered through. We persevered, and yeah, we got a fun kind of a sprint slate. The last game only starts a couple hours after the first game, so always fun when we have slates like that.
Yeah, man. Well, glad you could join. I'm happy to have you back, man. We had a great time last year in the spring working through these games.
Yes,
Nate's about to make the Laffy special, ground beef with eggs. Wish I had some peppers. Matter of fact, Nate, right here, fella, I just crushed it with no meat today, but 4 eggs, a little bit of cheese, not a lot, some green peppers, onions, and then a bunch of cooked spinach, Matt. Very good. Here's a little trick. Usually I just do hot sauce on it, but I ran out. You know what is shockingly good on eggs that people are going to think is gross? Arby's sauce, a little horseradish.
Oh, the horsey.
Oh, I'm sorry. Horsey sauce. Yes, not the Arby's. Yeah, no, yeah. Horsey sauce. Good call. Yeah.
I think horsey goes. I mean, I'm a big horseradish guy, so horseradish
so
sauce goes with everything for me. Are you a bacon or sausage guy?
Both. Anything. I firmly believe you can put anything with eggs and it's going to be good. Like I'll if I'm making steaks, right, a couple ribeyes, I'll do the old reverse sear the night before, eat one of them, and then put one of them in the fridge. But the tough thing about steak, look, I'm no chef. I literally just fuck around until something works. And put one in the fridge the next day, nice medium rare. But you never want to cook them more when you reheat them. So what I've been doing, Matt, take 4 eggs, crack them in the pan. Just let them fry a little bit. The moment you flip them, take those thin strips of already cooked egg, lay them on top of the fried egg, and put a lid over it at low heat, and it warms them up perfectly without overcooking, and then the horsey sauce goes on the way.
Yeah, you might not be a chef, but you got a lot of chef tendencies.
I'm telling you, it's so good. It is so good.
Sounds amazing. My stomach is grumbling for that. It's always nice also, like when you know the night before that you have a really bomb meal, like already.
Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah. When you have pre-cooked steak that you know you won't overcook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, glad you guys could join us. If you don't mind, take a single second this fine morning, hit that thumbs up, atone for your sins. It goes a long way. We appreciate you for it in advance. I wouldn't ask you otherwise. Those filthy YouTube overlords, always one step ahead of us. But for real, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll do this until probably 12, Matt. We don't need to go an hour and a half up to lock. I think an hour should give us more than enough time. But you ready to dig into it?
Yeah, let's get after it. I like this 7-game size slates. Pretty condensed, but not too small.
I like it too, but I'll say this much. Pitching yesterday on even a 4-gamer, I think, is better than today on a 7-gamer. You had Tony Gonsolin with I was talking about Gonsolin being a great pivot off of Sale, and he ended up having a phenomenal outing in his first start of the year. The only problem is Sale still went out there and had 28, but King, Gonsolin, and Sale were all very good yesterday. So it was tough to go wrong there. And then you know what else, man? Dodger bats went off. Seattle bats ended up going off late. Like I thought I was really positioned to have a nice day, but then everybody started going wild.
You certainly needed the Dodgers on that slate, like a bunch of them.
And Braves had 1 run.
Yeah, the Braves did nothing. And I played a bunch of lineups just via the Sims yesterday, and they loved the Braves. Obviously, what wasn't to love? So it was a rough afternoon slate for me. But yeah, pitching today there's some guys, but I think you can poke holes in pretty much everyone. Even Skeens up top. I mean, he doesn't have a great matchup. So yeah, not an overall great pitching slate. I'm with you.
Yeah, and again, it's not horrible, right? It's not like you and I have done plenty of shows where pitching's so bad that we're just grinding our way through a show trying to pull.
It's average today, I think.
It's average, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about Seth Lugo. That's at the very least interesting against Tampa Bay, but that's in Tampa Bay. They did get blanked yesterday, though, against the guy making his MLB debut. You have Tyler Mahle against the Athletics. You have Shane Baz, good pitcher, against Kansas City. So it's not terrible. But the question I have, I want to dive right into this with you. And, of course, just because it's a two-man show doesn't mean you guys in chat don't let us know where you're going. We want to hear and get thoughts from everybody here, because sometimes we end up getting some really good info. Kodai Senga and Paul Skeens are getting far and away the most ownership. Senga's 8,800, Matt, but this is not the greatest strikeout matchup. So how do you approach these guys up top with what combined 90% ownership on this 7-game slate?
Yeah, when I'm thinking about like the guys that are going to be really chalky, honestly, Senga is popular, but I think of Skeens kind of in his own boat here. I mean, he's projected to be 50% owned. Like, I'm not worried about Senga's ownership as much as I'm worried about Skeens's, even though, I don't think the play of Senga is as good as Skeens. The ownership, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if we just see double Senga with Skeens here. So for me, I'm kind of lumping Baz and Senga together and then Skeens up top as like the far and away chalk guy. And to be completely honest about it, like there are holes you can poke in all of them. The matchup with Senga, the matchup with Skeens, but there just aren't really reliable options to fall back on. So at the end of the day, you got to roster two pitchers on DraftKings. It makes sense to me why Skeens and Senga are getting the most ownership. Senga is cheaper than Baz. I mean, those guys are coming in pretty similarly owned. So, you could take that for what it's worth. It's really Skeens is the guy. Like, what do you think about Skeens' 50% ownership here?
Honestly, I'm fine with it. The one that is a little bit confusing to me is the Kodai Senga and Shane Baz. Like, is Kodai Senga deserving of nearly double the ownership of Shane Baz today? I understand that
I'm not seeing that. I think we had an update.
Oh, okay. Let me refresh. Good call. Thank you. Shout out to the data team getting this done. When I refreshed this a little bit earlier before I went upstairs and made breakfast, well, pre-workout breakfast, or 4 eggs before workout would be nuts.
Yeah.
There we go. See, all right. So here's the good thing, Matt. My intuition was correct.
Right.
That did not make any sense to me. I know it's not a good park, and it's no longer the Trop, but Shane Baz in this spot, to me, Royals sub-4 implied total. Yeah, now seeing both of these guys slightly under 30% with Paul Skeens pulling away from them at 49%. Now I see what you're talking about. That seems a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, it makes sense why Skeens is just pulling away despite the matchup, because it's Paul Skeens. I mean, arguably the top DFS pitcher in baseball right now. So yeah, now with Baz and Senga, like relatively even as far as ownership is concerned, like I don't think ownership is off anywhere. I think that Skeens is certainly overowned. I think that Baz and Senga are overowned, but we see that, whenever there's like top guys in the top pitcher tool, just because they're, quote unquote overowned doesn't mean they're bad plays.
Yeah, right. Just because they might have negative leverage doesn't mean, it's funny when I just ran the Sims with the most recent update, literally right before this show kicked off on the projections. Look, I mean, we are with the field for 52% exposure, 51.9% pool ownership on this last contest that I generated. So, I mean, we are right there. The one spot that we're overweight on, interestingly, because we're right there with Shane Baz as well, Zach Gallen against the Mets. What do you make of a guy at Zach Gallen against the Mets when you've got a $7,500 price point? Again, salary is super important in a lot of these spots. We talked about it at length the other day with Jacob deGrom, where it's like, listen, DeGrom, you're getting this guy probably, I know you played that slate 2 days ago. That's probably the cheapest you're going to get Jacob DeGrom for the rest of the season, right? Fair?
Yeah, totally fair.
He was what, like 8K or something, 8,200? Probably the cheapest you're going to get him. So does
maybe
Zach
ever.
Gallen, well, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe ever, like cheapest
maybe
ever.
Yeah. Zach Gallen coming off a handful of, very pedestrian starts, but we also know that he's a pretty decent pitcher. Do we look to the Mets here, or do you look towards the Gallen bounce back when you're probably talking about a guy who is not going to get really considerable ownership, only 15% ownership today? Where are you at on him?
Yeah, Gallen has a few things that you mentioned working in his favor today. Most notably being that he's cheap and not getting ownership. So whenever you have a guy like Gallen who fits into both those categories, I'm interested. I've always been a Gallen fan. Now, he has not been good this year outside of that one start against the Yankees, where he was just dominant. So he still has that in him, but kind of few and far between. His actual numbers are pretty bad. I mean, really bad. His underlyings aren't great, but he is getting, pitching into some bad luck right now. So Gallen's on my short list here. I mean, I mentioned earlier, like Senga and Baz aren't bad plays, even though they're coming in with negative leverage, but they still are overowned. And Gallen is a guy who's not overowned. And if you want to play some chalkier bats, I think that Gallen is wildly in play. I think that he's in play no matter what, just because of the options we have today. This slate, as you mentioned at the beginning, it's just average. It's not even that they're bad pitchers. It's just that even the guys that, used to be good or have been good for stretches either aren't necessarily pitching that well right now or in really tough spots. With Gallen, you've got a combination of both. He's not pitching well and he's in a tougher spot, but he's really cheap and not getting ownership. So for me, he's a guy that's wildly in play.
And you have no problem getting a little bit different in spots like this. I know that. You're not winning these tournaments by just going full out chalk lineup at every position.
Especially on a slate like this. Like, I am someone, and I talked to Greg about this a lot. Like, whenever there's chalk pitchers that just stand out and look really good, I don't have a problem playing them because it's pretty easy to get different with bats. Say, for instance, this past Sunday when it was like Skubal and Reagans or Skubal and someone, and they both just really, Skubal and Joe Ryan. I played both of them and got different with my bats. Now, you're obviously not winning anything when both those guys go off, but when those guys go off, you more often than not need them. I don't see that with the pitchers today. Skeens is the one guy you could make that case for, but personally, like, I'm not worried about fading Shane Baz or Kodai Senga. It's just about getting the pitcher that I actually do use right, which is why I might use them. That's
a good way to look at it. Right. Yeah. There's not a ton of fear in fading Baz or Gallen. It's not like you're fading, Zach Wheeler at home against the Colorado Rockies.
There's nothing like that today. I mean, even Skeens himself is expensive and facing a really good offense. So he's the one guy you could say, like, you'd be scared to fade. But again, like, the reasons for me why I might end up on, Baz and or Senga is just because none of the other options really stand out. That said, I'm more likely than not to get away from those guys just because they are considerably overowned. And I don't think they're much better plays than guys like Gallen, Tyler Mahle, Colin Ray, who we'll get to.
What about Seth Lugo today in this spot against Tampa Bay? He's not exciting. I think I've said this about him a million times. Every time he's on the slate, he's just one of those not exciting pitchers, but also a good pitcher. The only thing about Lugo is he's not cheap either. So you're getting a guy that if Lugo is finding ways to punch batters out, it's going to be by way of going deep into games, right? Like this last start he had, as a matter of fact, against Houston, 8 scoreless, 8 strikeouts. The guy is good. There's no doubt. Six innings, 1 earned against Baltimore, only 2 Ks. But if there's one thing about Seth Lugo that jumps off the page, Matt, just look at how deep this guy goes. That is a really great quality in a pitcher. 5 innings, 6 innings, 5 2/3, 6 2/3, 6 2/3, 8 innings. The question is, are you willing to pay that much for someone that doesn't have considerable strikeout stuff and has a much worse matchup than if this were at Kauffman Field. Meanwhile, it's taken place at George Steinbrenner Field, which is not very good for pitching right now, and we know that, particularly righties.
So I don't think Lugo, like, it looks that much different than the guys we talked about, but personally, okay, I'm off him here, and I actually like some Tampa bats for a couple reasons. One, I'm with you. Like, he is a good pitcher, and he's a guy I'll use in DFS sometimes, and I don't think this is a bad spot to use him because pretty much every pitcher on this slate, you can make a case for bats against him. But Lugo's coming off, as you mentioned, that nut spot against Houston at home, all righties, where he went really deep into the game and was really good. But his underlying numbers are worrisome, to say the least. I mean, they're worse than Zach Gallen's. 4.46 expected ERA compared to a 3.08 actual ERA, 50% hard hit rate. Like, I think that there are signs to get off Lugo here, and Tampa is in play for me on a smaller slate. Like, I'm only playing 4 lineups today. If I were playing 150, I wouldn't X him out of my pool or anything like that. But playing 4 for me, I don't think I'm going to play any Lugo here, and I really might get to Tampa. So sorry to burst your bubble there.
You're not bursting my bubble at all. I'm with you. I'm just trying to break these guys down. I think if this game were in Kansas City, I really would have a different opinion of this.
Totally. This park is, and we've seen it. It's a bandbox. It's a minor league ballpark. It's exactly what it is.
Yep. It is really hitter friendly. And you look at, even this season, home road splits for the Rays. They're pretty significant. Yeah, exactly, Steven. Pitchers are less exciting in Tampa. That doesn't mean I won't play good pitchers in Tampa. Like, you can play good. Listen, a lot of people played Chris Sale yesterday in Colorado, and he was fantastic. Right. Granted, Colorado is just the worst of the worst right now, but you get the point. What about Chad? And yes, Einsteinium. There is some weather today. Multiple games where we're dealing with serious concerns. My guess is the Pittsburgh game should be okay. At the very least, they'll be able to get in enough from our starting pitching, like with Skeens. I would hope. Cincy and St. Louis looks pretty bad. Cleveland looks like it could be a problem. Aside from that, I think everything else is fine. But yeah, Matt, I don't want to just completely write that off. Those are a couple spots that are specifically that Cincinnati game looks really bad.
Yeah, I mean, we're all looking at the same. No, we're no meteorologists over here. Certainly potential troubles in Cincy and St. Louis. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
You don't need to be a meteorologist to look at a radar.
Yeah, okay, fair. For me, if the slate locked right now, I just personally, playing 4 lineups, would not play the St. Louis-Cincy game. The Minnesota-Cleveland game, I'm a little bit torn on. I need to, I think I need more time up until lock to decide what I'm going to do there. But Cincy, St. Louis looks pretty rough.
It does. I'm looking at the radar right now. Let's see. Let's give it a peek. I don't know, man. Being the meteorologist that I am, doesn't look that bad. I'm gonna play this game.
The Cleveland game?
What's that?
The Cleveland game?
Yeah. Cincy.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
You're in the Cleveland area, aren't you? Give us a report.
No, I mean, it's sunny. It's nice out right now. The weather is supposed to be nice, but it can turn here in a literal minute. So I'm like a half hour away from the ballpark, so a little bit different here.
You are right, though. We still have over an hour until these games lock, so we don't have a ton to worry about. Let's just pay attention to the weather. But yeah, just keep that on your radar, your metaphorical radar and the actual radar. Pay attention.
That was a nice double entendre there.
It was unintentional, but I felt like I had to clarify. All right, so Skeens we're in agreement on. Senga and Baz, I'm going to get them, Matt. I have no doubt about that. But on my last run, I'm getting less Senga than I was earlier in the morning, and I'm fine with that. Shane Baz, I'm right with the field on him and Skeens. The most overweight player for me right now is actually Zach Gallen. Are you doing anything with some of these cheap pitchers?
Yeah, the one cheap guy I actually like here is Colin Rea.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't feel great about it. He's not some world beater. I mean, he's been around for a while. He's a journeyman, but he gets a really good matchup in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. He's been pretty good this year in his limited run. He's cheap as hell, so I don't know if it's needed, but never hurts when you're, projected to be the top value pitcher 21% of the time the slate plays out. And he's coming in with leverage. So, like, yeah, I could easily see just pairing him in Skeens and moving on with my life because, as I mentioned, I don't really feel scared to fade any of the other guys. That's not to say that they won't pitch well, but, like, I think Rea can dollar for dollar match any of the guys above him personally. And that's just the byproduct of this slate. It's not that I really like him or anything like that.
Steven, saying to push back on myself, this year the Tampa Stadium only has a 103, but 8th in home runs allowed. Instead of doing that, Steven, just look at what Yankees Stadium is over the past few years. It's the same dimensions, except you're down south with more humidity. So I wouldn't look at this part. It is literally the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. It's their spring training field. So, I mean, I'd be more interested in looking at that. Yankee Stadium, 2nd in home runs, park factor 101. So it's 8th over rolling 3 years. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking at.
Yeah,
do you have interest in Chad Patrick?
Yeah, I was waiting on you to ask me about him because you had started to.
Only because he's 8K, man. Like it's a great matchup, but is the price point prohibitive when you have like Senga at 8,800 and a bunch of these guys slightly priced above or below him, even with a Zach Gallen? Because I can tell right now he's getting squeezed from my lineups in the Sims. I have very little doubt that's because I'm getting more Zach Gallen and more Boz Senga and even Tyler Mahle above him. He's in that kind of dead zone for me.
It's just tricky because he's expensive for who he is and he doesn't have a really long leash. So, on this slate, I think he's in play because as I've mentioned a few times, I'm not like, I don't think there are any pitcher on the slate aside from Skeens that's going to have a score that you like absolutely need. But you're paying for him here. You're really just paying for a pitcher against the White Sox. And listen, I don't think that's a bad strategy. I don't think it's like optimal right now, but I think he's in play. Like the top pitcher tool says it all. 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 9% ownership. He looks similar to Ray. Looks slightly better, but he's more expensive. So I lean the cheaper guy, but it's not like 8K is pricey. And yeah, like it's a matchup and ownership thing here. I don't really have like a strong take on him personally. I personally probably won't get there. I think you're more right than wrong that he's just getting squeezed.
8% swinging strike rate this year too. Like the strikeout numbers just haven't looked great. And it's a good matchup. Would you rather get to, and by the way, Jake, I didn't see any K props getting steamed today. Whenever I do, I always hit you guys up on the show and let you know. And there've been many times where that's worked for us, but nothing really significant today. I haven't seen any like huge positions on any specific K props that made a difference in the market. And I may have just missed them. Honestly, I was on calls this morning, but I know you mentioned him a little bit. Tyler Mahle. You've got a guy in Tyler Mahle who would have thought, Matt, that this guy's actually had a few games this year where he's been really good.
Yeah, this one is about as tough as it gets for me because I had a monster night 2 weeks ago on Tuesday night MLB playing Tyler Mahle and an A's stack. So tonight, I'm torn on which way I want to go here. Mahle's been really freaking good though.
Really good.
Yeah, the day that I played him was strictly because the tools were really, really pushing him, and he was phenomenal that night against the Angels, I believe. Yeah, the Angels, and he's followed that up with another good start. I'm more on Mahle than the A's here, just because I think there are more offenses to like than pitchers to like. But if I don't end up playing Mahle, I think the A's are viable as a stack. So I'm on both sides of this one. Like Mahle's been really good, but he has been pitching into some good luck, unlike Gallen. His underlyings aren't as good as his actual numbers. Doesn't mean that's not going to last today in a decent spot against the Athletics. But I think on the other side of it, the Athletics have upside when Mahle is not on his game. So this is a classic one. I like both sides.
You know, it's funny. I'm just looking at some of this guy's, you know, the pitch mix, velocity, and all of that. Everything looks identical to last year. He's throwing the same pitches.
How much did he pitch last year?
I don't know.
I thought he was like hurt all of last year.
Was it the year before I'm
Maybe.
thinking of then?
It must be, but I'm not even sure at this point how much he's actually pitched for Texas or if he's
right. Why do I feel like he pitched a lot more than, all the way back to 2022
with Cincy?
Yeah. My brain short circuits sometimes trying to remember which of these guys, like what, sometimes when you do that, when you do it for so long,
yeah,
I feel like I remember him from last year. And then I look and it's like, oh, that was from 2021.
Bro, I thought the same thing about Gonsolin yesterday when I was reading his little blurb and it was like, hasn't pitched since 2023. I was like, didn't he pitch last season? I couldn't believe it.
It's just hard to compartmentalize all of that stuff. But looking back even to the previous pitch mixes, yeah.
Well, that's what makes it even tougher, though. You're going back like 3 years now, and
I know. What are you stayed healthy? Yeah, right. But also, you know, you look at his last full season. The guy's strikeout stuff was like, you look at his last full season, and he was never bad. You know, you're talking a 3.49 xERA, 3.73 xERA the year before that. I'm talking full seasons here, but everything looks pretty decent on Tyler Mahle. Maybe he's just good.
I think he is a good pitcher. I don't think he's a great pitcher, and I think he will get hit, you know, more often than he's shown this year. But I do think he's a perfectly good pitcher, and he's been good this year. So we kind of have a lot of that on this slate of like guys that are in play, but you can make cases for offenses against them too.
Benny, guys from PA can't say water, but they can say compartmentalize good. Benny, they can say compartmentalize well. And I do use water. Yeah. Not my dad was a water guy. It's wild. But it's not everyone in PA that says that. But yes, I can say compartmentalize well. Anyway, I kind of feel like I'm coming around on Tyler Mahle a little bit here. I know 8,500's not cheap. And this guy, is it fair to say, Matt, he's probably at the end of the day, probably like slightly above league average K rate.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But I'm getting 18%. It's just so funny how, I don't know if you ran the Sims yet or you're just going to do so after the show, but
I've ran some.
You did. Okay. I'm with the field on a lot of these guys like Skeens, Baz, Mahle, Lugo. Look at that. The one guy I'm legitimately over the field on is Zach Gallen.
So for me, I'm way over, and I just did like my top 50 lineups for the purpose of this conversation. I'm way over on Skeens and Mahle, and Gallen too. Way under on Lugo and Senga.
I'd be okay with that.
I'm totally fine with that. You know, I like Senga, and I think he's a perfectly fine play here, but I don't love the matchup. You mentioned it's not a good strikeout matchup. Arizona has good hitters up and down their lineup. Like, I'm never going out of my way to pick on Arizona, so I'm fine not playing Senga here.
So am I. Another thing too, curious your thoughts here before we get into some other cheap options and some bats, because this is nothing better than a 7-game slate that starts at noon, 12:30.
I can't think of much better, honestly, for me.
It's the best. What do you make of Senga's strikeout rate this year? 22%. Do you think it's possible that, just a little bit of bad luck and he's fine? Because he, still 12.2% swinging strike rate. I didn't see anything jump off the page that would indicate that it should be as low as it is right now. But You're talking about a guy who previously has had really significant strikeout stuff, like 2023 with. Are you kidding me? He only pitched 5 innings last year, so I'm
I was
thinking
gonna say I
what?
can't even remember him being in the. I thought last year was the only year he pitched.
Me too. How are we just fully missing that? All right, so it's not just me. You remember last year being him, right? Like that.
Yeah, I remember last year being like the year that he
bizarre.
was like, yeah.
Anyway, in his first full season, he had a 29% K rate. This year, it's a 22% through his first 28 and then 2/3 innings.
Yeah, so I think there is some unknown here just because oftentimes when you've got these guys that come over from overseas, the more they get seen, like the better hitters are against them because a lot of what they get by on is deception and
definitely,
stuff that just hitters haven't seen before. That said, Senga was like an elite, top tier starter in Japan. And he's shown that in the States as well. Like, yeah, I mean, the 45% K rate and what the 5, like, I don't know, man. Like, I really don't know what to make of him going forward. I would expect it to be a little bit higher than like the 22.5% that it is right now. But like, I don't think it's going to approach what he did in 2023. Maybe I'm wrong there though. How about you?
It all boils down to the fact that the guy's just, I mean, he's allowing nothing. He's not giving up power. If you want to argue he's been a little lucky, like a 1.26 ERA isn't sustainable, fine. But all of the underlying numbers look good. A 12% swinging strike rate. You're not going to complain about that. Again, okay, maybe he's been a bit lucky, but 5% barrel rate in that full season, 6.8% barrel rate, right? A lot of ground balls, not a lot of hard contact. He's just good. So despite the K rate being down from where it was in 2023, the argument is still there that it doesn't matter as much when you've got a guy that's this good. Totally.
And he's not expensive. And I think what I was doing and why I didn't remember Senga from last year somehow, and I do this, I was confusing him with Shota Imanaga from the Cubs, who
I think I was too. Yeah.
His breakout was last year. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not putting too much thought into it. I do remember Senga being hurt last year, and he did come over the year before. Obviously he did and was really freaking good. I'm not sure he'll ever go back to that, but to your point, he is a really, really good pitcher. I mean, outside of Skeens, he's the second best pitcher on the slate.
Yep. And he has a 5.5 K prop juiced to the over. 5.5 juiced to the over. Let's see start time here. Hold on. So Skeens is 6.5. Wow. If you're betting that, if you're betting the over on Skeens, grab that on DraftKings. Don't be silly and take it on Caesars. Minus 160 on Caesars, minus 115 on DK. Conrea, 4.5 strikeout prop. Abbott, 4.5. Lugo, either 4.5 or 5.5. The 5.5 heavy juice to the under. Senga's at 5.5 too. Baz is at 5.5, but Senga actually has a better K prop than Shane Baz. And then here's another one, Matt. Like Gallen is in that same ballpark strikeout wise as everyone not named Paul Skeens. So a little juice on the under for 5.5, right? But he's pretty much right there with Baz and Senga.
Yeah, it's not really that surprising just because of the matchups. Well, it's not like Gallen's in a high K matchup either, but Baz is not in one and Senga is not in one. So that's, again, why, we're able to poke holes in all these guys. And I talked about Colin Ray, and we've kind of both sold ourselves on a little bit of Tyler Mahle.
Yep. BD, where do you think he ends up, Laffy, strikeout percentage wise? 25%. You're talking Senga? Matt, I think 25% is reasonable.
I agree with you. And if that's the case, though, then shouldn't we like him more? Because that only means I know it's only been a few starts this season, but if he's got like a 22% K rate and we think it's going to end up around 25,
yeah,
and that means it's going to be 26.5 going forward or something like that. now's the time to buy it. I'll say that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I got 20% of them right now. I'm going to run this again. I mean, we'll plenty of time to make some adjustments, but yeah, it is all in that same ballpark. And also Senga, pretty decent park, although it's going to be pretty nice hitting weather there, but I'm not too worried about that. So you ran the Sims, so did I. You're big on the top stacks tool as well. I know you use this to gauge a lot of your decisions, even if you're just playing some of the higher stakes lineups, Matt. When you're using, because you've been a handful of tournaments already this year, right? Using the tools.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Lay it out to people who may just, have a new sub, just signed up and are looking for a little bit of advice here. What are you pinpointing when you're pulling up the top stack tool each day?
So all of it together, there isn't like one thing that's more important to me outside of just the overall top stack percentage. That's obviously going to be what everything else is based on. But I will say, just to give this a shout as well, especially if you're someone like me who, sometimes I multi-enter, but a lot of times I don't. I play 3-4 lineups. The single lineup simulator we have that you can just plug in your lineups and it tells you basically if it's a good lineup or not in its simplest terms is such a good tool that plays hand in hand with the top stack tool. Obviously, if you're using the top stack tool and you're making lineups based on the tools, you're going to build good lineups more often than not. But that tool with it just kind of cements itself. So I would recommend anyone who's building lineups like that, definitely take advantage of the single lineup simulator. I don't think enough people do, and it's a really, really good tool. As far as just the top stack tool itself, for me, it's just really easy to read. Like, obviously I've been doing this long enough, but there's a certain, nuance when it comes to building DFS lineups. I don't use anything as the Bible, but this is one thing, especially for MLB, that is probably the most important part of my process. So say, for instance, like just looking at it today, and it's continuing to update. You have a team like Milwaukee. They're pretty clearly the top overall stack on the board, but they're also getting a ton of ownership. And it's laid out pretty clearly by the fact that they have a negative 3.8% chance of being the most negatively leveraged stack on the board. So I think the top stack and the stack score is probably the two most important things, because the stack score is taking the top stack percentage and ownership and everything and kind of putting out a blanket score. But yeah, again, everything is so slate dependent. There isn't just one thing that I look at and I go off that. It changes every day,
Yeah, for sure. And Minnesota looks pretty good now in the stack score as well.
Yes.
And as always, you guys want to check these tools out. Do yourself the biggest favor you can and just get the tools essentially for free. All you got to do, sign up with one of our sportsbook partners. The link's in the description. Whether you're on your phone, expand that description, or you're on desktop, whatever it may be, just expand the description under the video player, and you'll see where it says sign up for these sportsbooks and get Sims for free. You're getting core MLB Sims, right? $120 value a month, simply for signing up on any of these books, or if you're in a non-legal betting state, any of these pick'em sites as well. You have these are the 4 simple steps. Click claim offer right here on any of them. Once you go there, sign up, right? After you've clicked with that link, because otherwise we can't track you. Sign up and deposit and place a bet. The minimum deposit on all of these is like $5 or $10, right? That's genuinely what it is for all of these, $5 or $10. Then after you take that deposit and place a bet, once that bet settles, email us. These 4 steps here, support@stokastic.com, with your first settled bet, a screenshot, and then a screenshot of your welcome email, and get whatever you want. If you signed up, this isn't just a one-time and done. If you signed up on 5 of these books or pick'em sites, you can now parlay that into 5 free months of MLB Sims or NASCAR or PGA or MMA or NBA. Well, you could literally go, you know what? I want a month of all of these sports. And as long as you follow these steps, you can get it. Or you could say, I want 5 months of MLB, and you got it. Take it through the entire season. Take yourself up to the start of NFL and do it for the cost of, no joke, probably in total $35 to get all of the tools throughout the entirety of the spring and summer. Straight no-brainer, man. It's as easy as it gets. And Matt, I think you would attest to this more than anyone. These tools work if you know how to use them.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a really, really good way to say it.
And that's why I asked you how you use them, because it's nothing bothers me more than someone just saying use the tools on this or that and giving you no instruction whatsoever. But the stacks today, Minnesota, St. Louis against Abbott. I don't know what to make of Andrew Abbott. This guy can go out and just have these insane starts and then get the shit kicked out of him the very next day. So, he's all over the place. He's really not having that bad of a year, which is interesting to me why St. Louis would have a 4.9 run total today. But I think a lot of that is just playing into the fact that, it's going to be approaching 80 degrees in Cincinnati, which is a super friendly hitter park. Yeah.
So this is a game, and you're right. I just looked at an update. The risk is lowered here. So
I told you, man, you don't.
Yeah, it was a good call.
You don't need to have gone to school to look at a radar.
Touche. Yeah, so St. Louis does look really good in the tools. I'm still worried about weather, but putting that aside, they stand out. Abbott's been good this year. His underlying numbers are really good. I think it's just a ballpark and price thing for St. Louis here. A bunch of the cheap stacks actually look really good aside from being cheap. Milwaukee's expensive, but St. Louis, Minnesota, and Texas, all with a 10% or higher chance of being a top value stack, all getting ownership, all look really good in the tools. If I had to say one team that stands out to me right now of those four, and then we'll get to some more a little bit off the radar ones, it's got to be Minnesota. You called them out a little bit. Like Ben Lively stinks. They're on the road, guaranteed 9 at bats. Presuming that the weather holds off, it's really good hitting conditions here. I mean, I never love the Twins because they're not very good, but I don't really care for one slate in MLB DFS. Give me some Minnesota here.
I like it. Actually, I like it a lot. And when you talk about pitching today, when you said earlier, I love the point you made where you're like, hey, listen, if there's some good pitchers that I really like, I'm just going to play them and possibly get different elsewhere. I think that you could do a lot of that on this slate. That doesn't mean you have to jam Senga in every lineup or Shane Baz in every lineup, but I do think, if you're saying, all right, I'm just going to play Skeens, and then I think there are some great other spots where I can get different. The only team, like you mentioned it minutes ago, the only team pulling crazy ownership, and it's not super crazy, but 15% Milwaukee. Aside from that, you have the highest stack score in our tools, Minnesota Twins, with 7.8% ownership, and the highest value score on the site with the second highest, top stack percentage. So I don't know. Minnesota just looks really good here.
Yeah, they look really good. The only thing I'll say, it's not even to counter that, just there are a bunch of stacks that look really good here. So Minnesota might look better than the others, but by slim margins, Milwaukee looks good. Texas looks good. Cleveland looks pretty good. I mentioned Tampa earlier. And I've mentioned both sides of this a couple of times now, but the Athletics look really good here. And the tools kind of lay out how I feel about this game. Both Mahle and the Athletics have a lot of upside in this spot.
So with my last Sims run, Minnesota is my highest exposed 5-man stack. Texas against Springs is actually second.
Yeah, I'm looking at my top lineups too, and the Sims are pushing Texas. So
it's not.
I can dig it.
They have a 5-1 total in Texas.
They're starting to hit a little bit better too, and Springs has been very hit or miss. So he got roughed around by the White Sox his last time out. So that kind of tells you all you need to know. And even with Milwaukee, the Sims aren't pushing them out because they're over-owned and they're expensive. It's a bad combo for the Sims, but they're not a bad play here. Burke stinks. The slate I was talking about earlier that I won with Mahle and the Athletics were matched up with Burke. So I certainly have no qualms picking on him. the ownership is just a little bit outrageous compared to the other teams that also look good.
Hey, if you guys don't mind, if you forgot, just a subtle reminder, hit that thumbs up. We got, well, how many people? Almost 500 people hanging out with us this fine morning. Ready for some more early afternoon matinee baseball games? See if we can rip this north of 100. Be greatly appreciated. We're at 77 now. 23 of you, clearly generous enough to lend that second of your time and tap that thumbs up. And as always, if you hate this show, no big deal. Hit the thumbs down. Make sure to do it twice, though, and really make your voice heard. But yeah, Matt, if you look at somebody like Springs, you'd mentioned it, 21% K rate almost, but he's also allowing some pop. And even this is a guy who, what did he pitch? 61 innings over the last 2 years, including this year. You're talking about like almost a 1.5 home runs per 9 type of pitcher. And that was with them playing in Tampa Bay last year, where Tampa Bay is clearly a favorable pitcher's park. So if you're taking all of that into consideration, very possible that this guy, might give up a decent amount of pop. 47% fly ball rate this year for Jeffrey Springs. So when I look at a lefty like that, a fly ball lefty that's now in a reasonably favorable hitter's park, I do understand why a team like Texas would get some ownership and exposure.
That's funny. Just the whole Springs went from the team that also went to a minor league park to another team that also went to a minor league park, which is confusing to think about. So yeah, I'm with you there. I think Texas has real upside here. I mentioned some guys that had started really slow. Marcus Semien, namely, dropped out of the order. He started to get going. And, I'm not saying play him because he's had a bunch of hits the past few games, but he is notoriously hot and cold. So nice to see him seeing the ball well, and he's a big part of their lineup. Still no Corey Seager, which stinks, just makes them cheaper. Part of the reason why, Minnesota might not be getting as much love as they should be, and you can kind of lump Texas in here as well, and St. Louis. I think they're so cheap that you don't even need the salary savings.
You might be right. Yeah, a lot of times you're going to see that.
For instance, it's not like this today, but I'm thinking about a slate. I think it was like a late slate. I don't know. The Marlins and Dodgers were on it, and if you use the two most expensive pitchers on that slate and did a 1 through 5 Marlin stack, you had 7,000 left per player or whatever, and people are just really hesitant to play lineups like that.
No, they don't want to do it. Especially on a 7-gamer.
Right.
Where you can easily fill these lineups to the 50K. Yeah. Tango Hotel, St. Louis game might not even play. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little bit
but it might play.
I'm not as concerned about that game, but don't take my word for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more optimistic about it now. I'm not going to totally fade it, but I don't think you're crazy. Just take it out of the pool. There's 6 other games.
Sure, if you want. But also, if you're looking at Minnesota, Cleveland, that has some sketchy weather as well. I don't know. I'll probably end up playing them because, and here's why. It doesn't look like it's any sustained weather throughout the day. So if that happens to be the case, Matt, if I just don't play any pitchers from that game and I play hitters, in all likelihood, the hitters are coming back after an in-game delay, most likely against some back of the bullpen guy, potentially, if the delay is long enough.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you have the worry that they just call the game, but I mean, it is what it is at that point. I don't know. I never am good with this weather stuff because I just don't know.
Green, light green, no green, nothing is good, Matt. Light green is light rain. Dark green, slightly concerning. You get into that yellow and red, start to worry. Or just a big blob of green coming across the screen. That is my scientific method when it comes to evaluating weather for a radar. And you know what? It's been pretty good to me over the years.
I think I do agree with you about the hitters coming back in the game and how that shouldn't be a concern. I am tainted though, because a week ago, I don't even remember how long.
The final 7 game.
Yes, I played some White Sox who were good and were coming up for another at bat and got rained out, which is just, I mean, it'll happen. So I'm not
that
saying
was
that
the
has anything.
Paddock game because I actually I faded that game in its entirety because I actually thought it would come sooner. I wasn't fully wrong because they literally called the game at 7. I thought it was going to be around the 5th or so. But yeah, I mean, look, make your own decisions. That's the fun part about DFS when it comes to baseball. Also, the shitty part if you're on the wrong side of it. But I have no problem getting there. I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to go ahead and executive decision this one and say if we get a delay, fine. But this game's playing, Matt. There I am on record for everybody to shit on me when it gets delayed and then or postponed. But we'll see. I think it should be okay. Anyway, any other stacks before we do our home run picks and get out of here?
Yeah, so just wanted to call out 2 more. Talked about them a little bit, but the Athletics and Tampa Bay, 2 teams just not going to get a lot of love and have the upside to break a slate like this. So, yeah, the Athletics and Tampa Bay, 2 other teams wildly on my radar. And depending on the weather in Cleveland and Cincinnati, I might play more of those teams. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, guys, you see all of these tools. Again, if you're jumping in late, get them for free. Do yourself a serious favor and get them for free. You have a monster slate coming up tomorrow. You still have NBA going. The easiest way to do it, I can't say it enough. Like, just go and grab the tools. When I say for free, sorry, it might be a $5 deposit on a sportsbook, but then you get bonus bets for it. So you're actually getting paid out one way or the other, or you getting
you could win money.
What's that?
You could win money and just sign up.
Yeah. Or you get your deposit, like if you're somehow not on FanDuel, just to give you an idea, FanDuel, if you bet 5, you get $200 in bonus bets. Some of these sign-up offers are crazy. So, I mean, just take advantage of them and get the tools for free. All right, let's go over to OddsShopper. As always, OddsShopper Portfolio EV free for your first week. No better way to buoy your DFS losses during these tough stretches than to make money betting with a top-down approach like Portfolio EV. Links in the description. Always first week, 100% free. So take advantage of that. I use these tools every day, and I have crushed with them. And boy, has it helped me on some bad NFL days, some bad Sundays, or some bad MLB days. I'll tell you that. Let's go home runs, Matt. Is there anyone that stands out to you? I'm going to sort from edge, high to low, and see if we have any good spots where we're getting better odds than the true odds would tell us it should be at.
So I usually just go off the cuff here. I'm not going to change it now. Give me Brandon Lau to homer off Lugo here.
Okay. There were a couple days last year where you and I were both hitting these on the same day.
I do remember that. Yes. Yes, I do.
Right? And had you parlayed these, would have been in quite nice shape. I want to say, you know what? What about somebody, Matt, who is really not having the greatest season, only has 4 home runs thus far, but has the platoon advantage against Springs? What about Adolis Garcia?
Well, I love that because he got dropped in the lineup a few days ago, and he has been red hot since then. Really seeing the ball well. I love that call.
Let's do it. Plus 430 on FanDuel. Who did you have?
Brandon Lau.
I'm going to actually parlay this right now. Let's hope the best odds for Lau are on FanDuel.
I'm glad you called that out too. You never know the benefit of this stuff because he was someone like high on my radar and I just kind of had fallen out of my mindset, and I'm glad you mentioned him.
Best spot on Brandon Lau would be BetMGM or ESPN, but 4-1 on FanDuel. I might just take a bit of a haircut there so we can get Lau in there together with Adolis Garcia. Let's do it, man. Let's hit this.
I might throw a couple shekels on it too.
What's that?
I might throw a couple shekels on it too.
Oh, you got to. Let's do it.
Yeah, I have to.
Because if we were not dumb and decided to do that every time last year we did this, right, we certainly would have been profitable.
Just one time, probably, we would have been profitable.
Yeah, but we did it twice there was one week where we did it twice in a week, and that would have basically just bankrolled us for the rest of the year.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
So, All right. Anyway, hey, appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Fun, man. Really happy to be back doing shows with you today, man. This is good stuff. What do you say we go win some money, brother?
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Do it. Appreciate it, guys. As always, you ever have questions about Portfolio EV, you want to start making money, my DMs are open. They're open for any questions you have about the sims or the single lineup sim. You're signing up there. DM me over on X. I got you covered. Jump in both of those Discords. A lot of helpful people there. There's always people looking to help you out. Reach out. Don't just sit there in the dark. We got you, man. We got you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Friday strategy show. Big slate to close out the work week. Bye-bye.